everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Walk the Line podcast. I'll be your host, Greg Sowers, and thank you for joining me for episode 21. Hope everyone enjoyed the episode from last week talking to Dustin Bones Smith, first goalie we had on the podcast, and also first guest with a NHL game to their resume. In today's episode, we'll be talking about idols or players that you look for an example of how you want to play. And I think, just to start off, my role model, I guess, in thinking about hockey and who I wanted to be when I was young was Mark Recchi. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there may not even know who that is. But, growing up, I was a forward. I was smaller, wasn't that fast. But I tried to find a player that I identified with, not only from a stature standpoint, but also someone I feel like I could represent well on the ice. And, Mark Recchi was that small forward on the wing, had a kind of a quick shot, but, every time he was on the ice, he worked his bag off and tried to, do the best he could every time he was on the ice, and, made a long NHL career out of doing it. And he's also the reason why I wore number 8 the whole time I was playing hockey. But I just think it's important for our younger, listeners out there to, it's very easy to say, I want to be like Sidney Crosby. I want to be like Connor McDavid. I want to be, Brian Leach for our older listeners. And, as much as everybody wants to be those types of players, it's those guys are above and beyond what a normal NHLer could be. They're Hall of Famers. And, if you try to play like Connor McDavid, there's guys in the NHL that can't even, keep up and play with Connor McDavid. He's on a whole nother level. And, we're kind of in this age of, seeing things on YouTube and watching SportsCenter and NHL Network, and you see all these highlights and the toe drags and, Connor McDavid flying around the ice and doing what he does. The point of it is not everyone can be a Connor McDavid. So if you're trying to, play like Connor McDavid and do the things he does, maybe you don't have the same skill set. So I urge every player out there listening, we talk about learning from the game and watching hockey and learning from, going to Preds games or whatever your local team is. Even if you're watching a college game, try to find a player on the ice in your position that you're going to watch every time they're on the ice. And trying to find that player where you see parts of your game in that player. And I think, we look up at body types and things like that, it goes for goalies too. If you're a smaller goalie, you're 5'5" or whatever, and, you don't want to watch how a 6'5" goalie plays. I mean, the position's similar, but, he's able to do things because he's got a longer reach. He takes up more of the net. You want to try to find a player in your position that, fits the mold that you currently are. And that'll change as you grow up and as you progress your way through the different levels of hockey. Like I said, I started out playing forward. My favorite player was Mark Recchi, being a Flyers fan. And then as I got older, I would say I tried to resemble a Kimmo Timonen. And again, it's another longtime Predators defenseman, Flyers defenseman. They won a cup with the Blackhawks, and I believe he's like 6 foot, but unfortunately I'm short a few inches on that one. But, just a stay-at-home defenseman, wasn't flashy, did the right things every time he was on the ice, and he was consistent, and it was what I would like to think is a good guy off the ice. So, as my playing career progressed, that's a player that I paid attention to and tried to take parts of his game and put it into mine. Again, he wasn't going end to end. He wasn't toe dragging. He wasn't putting pucks through players' legs and, going in on breakaways. He was just the defenseman that consistently made, a good first breakout pass. Played the body on one-on-ones. He wasn't a grinder in the corner by any means, because that wasn't part of my game either. But he made a long and successful career about doing the things that he did very well. Part of that being consistency. So, like I said, if you're a younger listener and you're looking at McDavid doing all of his insane things that he does on the ice, I strongly encourage, if you're not that kind of player now, to find someone that resembles you in the NHL. And we actually had the opportunity this past season with my U12 Flyers. We went to go see a Notre Dame hockey game up in South Bend, and I asked every player to, again, just pick a player. Every time they're on ice, watch what they do, and then the next game we had the next day, I kind of asked what each player saw, and it kept our kids engaged in the game. They were allowed to have fun and do their thing at the rink while watching the game, but they all came up with pretty good answers about what their guy in their position did. From goalies to D to forwards, and I think that part of that is just being somewhat realistic about your abilities, where you currently stand in the game, but you just want to make sure that if you're trying to resemble or you're trying to portray a certain player in the NHL and you're trying to bring those things into your game, you want to make sure that that player has the same capabilities that you have currently. If you're kind of a rat on the ice and you like to muck it up in front of the net, maybe Brad Marchand's your player. If you want to be a stay-at-home defenseman and block shots, maybe who I'm trying to think of who on the Preds would do that, but they all moved on. I mean, maybe Matthias Ekholm is someone out there for our defenseman, or if you want to do the grind it out, get pucks deep, and if you're a little guy, maybe Rocco Grimaldi's your guy. So I just want to encourage everybody out there who's listening. If you're looking for a player to model your game after, and it doesn't even have to be your favorite player. If you can love Connor McDavid and think he's the best in the world, but you can still watch another player and try to pick up on little things he does based on, maybe you're not the fastest player on the ice. So maybe in the NHL, you don't want to try to watch the fastest player on the ice. I mean, there's Joe Pavelski out there. He's not the quickest player anymore, but he's in front of the net. He's tipping pucks. And if you're a guy who maybe doesn't have the most speed in the world, watch how he positions himself in front of the net and tips those pucks. If you're a big defenseman, maybe you're watching Victor Hedman, see how he's clearing guys out in front of the net. If you're a mobile defenseman who's, offensive and wants to make, plays at the offensive and defensive blue line, maybe you're watching Cal McCarr on the Avalanche. So I just wanted to, kind of put this short episode out there, to, especially with the season just around the corner, starting in October and training camp coming next month. Just if you have the opportunity to watch a preseason game or, watch a player that you're trying to resemble, just make sure that player fits your capabilities as the player you are now. I'm excited to let you guys know we have a few exciting episodes coming up. I don't want to mention any names in case they fall through, but hopefully we get a few more, like Dustin, who came on last week. Again, I know I mentioned it before, but we have a hockey trainer in the Nashville area that's going to come on. And we also have a big name in women's hockey that should be coming on soon as well. And if I could ask everybody, if you're liking the podcast, or if you want to hear something different, feel free to reach out with suggestions. But please feel free to share this podcast with anybody who may be interested. Again, not making a payroll off this, but just to get the word out. And like I said, we're trying to reach as many people as possible, just to be an outlet for youth players, wherever they may be. So again, if you have a favorite player, that's great, but be sure you're doing your homework and watching an NHL player or whoever it may be to that best replicates your game, and try to pick up a few things while you're watching them. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.